Good afternoon. I'm Brian Abrahamsen, and I chose to read Carissa Threat's book, Nursing and Civil Rights, Gender and Race in the Army Nursing Corps. The reason that I did this was that I have obviously I'm very interested in male nursing and perspectives of the history of male nursing. And Carissa Threat, in her book, presents two areas of discrimination: gender and race. It was a very interesting book. I would highly recommend it to each of you to read whenever you can. It's not a very long read, and it really will give you some perspectives on the history of those two things. Uh, Carissa uses the Army Nursing Corps and the history of wars to present a sort of like a time capsule for gender and race, and the discrimination that they felt during the development of nursing in the United States. Um, I tended to focus, most of what you see here will be focused on the male nursing in because that's what I was really hoping to look into and to read about. Even though um, the the history of African American women in the ANC is also very, very interesting, but I wanted to just focus on the male nursing because that's sort of what my passion was. I was very excited when we started this nursing course because I was hoping to maybe look into some of the history of male nursing. So um, the background I chose on my presentation, I don't know if you can see back here, but it's an American flag and there's a stethoscope on it. And then obviously the theme is red, white, and blue for the flag. Because this is primarily a United States history and very much focused on that, I wanted to sort of present it in that type of a way. Um, Over here we have I put up the a brief historical synopsis of her book. She starts out um, in how the American Nursing Corps played the part of breaking the traditional gender and racial divides of nursing, which was primarily white females. Um, it was a female-only division in the United States military, and it continued that way for many years. Um, I would say probably up to World War II, when the country was really experiencing a huge nursing shortage, and there were a lot of nurses calling out because there were a lot of African American women who were not being recognized as to join the ANC for nursing, and there were also thousands of male nurses who had the capabilities, who were very good, and they were not being recognized or allowed into the Army Nursing Corps. A lot of the men, especially, it was expected that they would be in different roles. They would be in, fighting roles or engineering roles or roles that were considered more manly at the time. Um, by 1955, the ANC finally did allow men into the nursing corps. And what's interesting about it is that the civilian nursing field, which accepted men more, um, really took into account and followed the ANC. So the male nurses were uh, definitely followed in civilian life as well as the historical of the ANC, of the Army Nursing Corps. Um, I found this quote here by Nelson to be very interesting. Archival work brings a profound sense of deja vu in nursing for history. If this is the case, we ought to be studying nursing history because that way we can not fall into the pitfalls that we've had in the past. Carissa Threat's history is pedagogy. Um, it was very interesting for me to view men as having a minority position, a minority group. Actually, when I was reading the book, I found myself very angry at times, and I've never really felt that way. It's helped me in relating to some of my other nursing coworkers and people who are from minority groups and have a difficult time because of their gender, because of their race, because of historical backgrounds. Um, as far as male nursing, we are growing in numbers, which I'm very happy about. We are still a minority in the nursing profession, but I have felt as a male nurse, I felt very accepted in where I'm at. Um, so let's move up here. History threats. History as evidence. The quote, one of the quotes that I thought was very interesting was, while scholars often argue that race had a preeminent function in shaping social roles and perceptions, the male nurse campaign during World War II reveals how gender and biological sex actually did transcend race, could transcend race. Um, Primarily, my point is not to point out that male nursing it was worse than gender discriminations. We know during these times, especially these early wars, the civil rights movement was going on, and I know that there have been much more dangerous, much more horrible things that went on with um, or racial discrimination, especially. However, I was just trying to focus more on nursing, more on the male side. So I just found it interesting that the African American women who, as nurses, were accepted into the nursing corps before men, primarily because they were women, not because, and the men were rejected. So that was very interesting to me. Uh, so that was providing evidence regarding the male nursing. Threats history as explanation. Racial and social injustices have always affected our country. It's defined very much the way we live today. However, as you read Threat's book and you read the history of the ANC, and uh, as she goes through each war and the times of it, we can see an explanation of why male nursing was really rejected and how it developed and came through that whole situation and came out the other side with better, less gender discrimination. An institution that had really banned men and resisted African American women as of 2003 is 34% male and 18% female, and by 2003 we had a male nurse as the deputy chief of the or as the chief of the Army Nursing Corps, and a African American woman as well, which was very encouraging. Currently, the deputy chief of the Army Nursing Corps is Colonel Richard L. Evans, which he is a male nurse. That's not the top position to be second in command, but it's still very encouraging to see those things. As time has progressed with gender and racial discrimination, we see that the Army Nursing Corps was right at the heart of the issues and actually pushed a lot of these, challenged a lot of those presuppositions of many Americans. Now all kinds of nurses, as we know, are accepted into the military and civilian populations, and we can actually look back and see how the Army Nursing Corps has had a development and a role in that. This book was very interesting to me. It was very helpful to me. I think it showed how the progression of the Army Nursing Corps has progressed so that there are now male nurses in the Army Nursing Corps and African American women. There's all kinds of different diversity in the Army Nursing Corps, and I like this quote that General Betty H. Simmons wrote: "The diversity of our members has made us smarter as an organization and stronger as a corps," and I believe that that's very true. These statements and the book, Threats History book, is a sign of progression. It's a sign of us doing better by people. It presents evidence of a changing country and explains modern nursing today. The Army Nursing Corps really led advancements and really helped a lot in changing these racial and gender inequalities. It's very important for us to remember those who went before, who fought for us, and I believe that very strongly. And so I think this book is great, excellent for explaining and helping us understand modern nursing. I included this timeline here, and this was kind of interesting to me, but the decline of male nursing, as I read Threat's book, I sort of followed it through early medieval Europe all the way through the 1950s, when men were actually accepted. And yet, if you read these a couple of these descriptions on the side, you just sort of see, as time went on, why male nursing decreased and their roles were viewed as something else. So it was just I thought it was an interesting kind of snapshot look at the history of male nursing and why it sort of declined in the views and the eyes of modern world. I used Threat's book, obviously, Nursing and Civil Rights, Gender and Race in the Army Nursing Corps. In my opinion, it's an excellent book for studying the history of male nursing, and very interesting for studying nursing history in general, to see how we have progressed even in cultural and racial and gender discrimination and diversity. And so I thought it was a great book. Thank you very much for this presentation.